What if the greatest blindness isn't in your eyes, but in your heart? What if someone could see perfectly and still miss the truth standing right in front of them? And what if the people most confident in their vision are actually the ones most lost? The story continues in a quiet but powerful moment. The man who had just received his sight, once a beggar, once dismissed, once invisible, has now been cast out, rejected, pushed aside, not because he did anything wrong, but because he refused to deny what he had experienced. He stood in truth, and it cost him everything. But this is where something beautiful happens. Jesus hears about it. Out of all the noise, all the arguments, all the rejection, Jesus notices the one who was cast aside, and he doesn't ignore him. He doesn't leave him alone in confusion or isolation. He goes to find him. That detail matters more than we often realize, because it reveals something deeply personal about the nature of God. He doesn't just perform miracles and move on. He doesn't just change lives and disappear. He seeks, he finds, he restores. And when Jesus finds the man, he asks a question, not to test him, but to invite him deeper. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man answers honestly. There's no pretending, no rehearsed response. Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? He is open, willing, ready. And Jesus responds, you have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. In that moment, everything comes together. The physical healing was only the beginning. Now comes the spiritual awakening. The man says, Lord, I believe, and he worships him. Think about that transformation. Just hours earlier, he didn't even know who Jesus was. Then he called him a man, later a prophet, and now he recognizes him as Lord. Step by step, his sight deepens, not just in what he sees, but in what he understands. This is the journey of true vision. It's not always instant. It unfolds, it grows, it becomes clearer over time. And what makes it possible? Not knowledge, not status, not religious training, but humility. The willingness to admit, I don't see everything yet, but I want to. And that's what sets this man apart from the Pharisees, because while he gains clarity, they remain stuck. Jesus then says something that cuts straight to the heart of the issue. For judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind. It sounds almost paradoxical. How can the blind see, and those who see become blind? But this isn't about physical eyesight anymore. It's about spiritual condition. Those who recognize their need, those who admit their blindness, are the ones who are open to receiving sight. But those who claim they already see, those who are convinced they have everything figured out, they close themselves off, and in doing so they become blind. Some of the Pharisees hear this and respond quickly, almost defensively. What? Are we blind too? It's a question filled with pride. They're not really asking for understanding. They're challenging the idea. And Jesus answers with precision. If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin, but now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. That statement is both simple and profound, because it reveals that the real issue isn't ignorance, it's denial. It's not that they couldn't see, it's that they refused to. They had the evidence, they heard the testimony, they witnessed the transformation, and still they chose not to believe. Why? Because accepting the truth would require surrender. It would mean letting go of control. It would mean admitting they were wrong. And for many people, that's the hardest step. Even today. Spiritual blindness doesn't always look obvious. It doesn't always appear as rebellion or rejection. Sometimes it hides behind confidence, behind routine, behind the belief that I already know. But knowing about something isn't the same as truly seeing it. You can study light your entire life and still live in darkness if you never step into it. The Pharisees had knowledge, they had structure, they had discipline, but they lacked openness. And without openness, truth has no place to enter. The healed man had none of those advantages. No position, no influence, no theological training. But he had something far more valuable. A heart that was willing, a heart that responded, a heart that moved from curiosity to conviction to belief. And that's the difference. Because faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to follow the truth when you encounter it, even if it leads you somewhere unexpected. Even if it costs you something, even if others don't understand. The man lost his place in the community, but he found something greater. He found clarity, he found truth, he found Jesus. And that's the turning point of the entire story. Because what looks like rejection becomes redirection. What looks like loss becomes gain. What looks like isolation becomes connection. Jesus didn't just restore his sight, he revealed his purpose. And in contrast, the Pharisees, who appeared strong, established and secure, are exposed as spiritually fragile. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked humility. And humility is the doorway to vision. Without it, even the clearest truth can be missed. So the question isn't just about them, it's about us. Where might we be holding on too tightly to our own understanding? Where might we be resisting something, not because it's wrong, but because it challenges us? Where might we be claiming to see, while quietly avoiding the light? These aren't easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because spiritual growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in honesty. It happens when we stop pretending to have it all figured out and start seeking what is real. Jesus didn't come to condemn those who didn't know. He came to reveal truth to those willing to receive it. But for those who reject it, not out of confusion, but out of pride, the consequence is distance. Not because God moves away, but because they choose not to move closer. And that's the tension in this passage. Two groups, same moment, same miracle, same opportunity, but completely different outcomes. One sees and believes, the other sees and denies. One gains vision, the other deepens in blindness. And the difference isn't in what they were shown, it's in how they responded. That's what makes this story so powerful and so relevant. Because every day, in ways big and small, we are presented with moments of truth. Moments that challenge us, moments that invite us to grow, moments that ask us to look deeper. And in those moments we have a choice, to stay comfortable or to become aware, to protect what we think we know or to explore what might be true, to remain where we are or to step into something greater. The healed man chose to step forward, even when it cost him, even when it meant standing alone. And in doing so, he found something that changed everything. Not just sight, but vision. Not just awareness, but understanding. Not just life, but purpose. And maybe that's the invitation for us today. Not to have perfect clarity, not to have every answer, but to be willing to see, willing to question, willing to grow. Because the moment we admit we might be blind is the moment we begin to truly see. And the moment we claim we no longer need to learn is the moment we stop growing. So stay open, stay humble, stay aware. Because truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it comes quietly, in a question, in a moment, in a realization you didn't expect. And when it does, the only thing that matters is how you respond. Will you resist it, or will you receive it? Because in the end, the greatest blindness isn't the absence of sight, it's the refusal to believe. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today.